she's, more beautiful, smarter, and probably a better sense of humor.
Was supposed to end a rumor. Instead, it made things messy. For weeks, fans had been congratulating her on a secret wedding. Somewhere in Europe. Away from cameras. Away from anyone who could prove it either way. Her response was 2 words. Fake news. That should have ended it. It did not. Because if there was no wedding, why did so many people believe there was one? Why did one ring, one photo, and one whispered story convince millions that Keanu Reeves, of all people, had finally settled down? The real story does not start with a ring. It starts almost 20 years earlier, at a dinner party nobody can even date exactly, with a friendship nobody was watching closely enough to catch. And by the time you get to the end of this, you will understand why that ring photo was never really about a wedding at all. A ring with no explanation. June 2025. The ballerina premiere. Grant is on the carpet next to Reeves, and something on her hand catches the light. A ring. Nothing loud. Nothing that screams for attention. Just enough. For a while, that is all it is, a photo sitting quietly online. Then a tabloid runs a story. A secret wedding, it says. A private ceremony in Europe, hidden from press and fans. And the internet does what it always does. It believes first and checks later. Congratulations flood in. Old photos get recirculated with new captions. Somewhere along the way, a rumor with zero confirmation turns into settled fact, just because enough people repeated it out loud. Reeves's team eventually tells a major outlet the truth. No wedding. Never happened. But corrections do not travel like rumors do. By the time that denial lands, thousands of people are already congratulating a marriage that only existed in their timelines. Here is the part that should bother you. This is not a couple who overshares. It is the opposite. Grant has never posted a single relationship status. Reeves has never confirmed a wedding date, an engagement, anything at all, not even a plain acknowledgement that they are exclusive. And that is exactly why one blurry ring photo was enough to build an entire fake wedding out of thin air. To understand how that is even possible, you have to go back to before any of us were paying attention at all. Hollywood's most private bachelor. For most of his career, Keanu Reeves has been a mystery the public refuses to leave alone. Bill and Ted. The Matrix. Then, decades later, John Wick, turning him into one of the most recognized faces on the planet all over again. Off-screen, the stories write themselves. The actor who gives away huge chunks of his paycheck. The actor who still rides the subway. Generous. Grounded. Almost too normal to be a movie star. Every few years, another story surfaces about some small, unglamorous kindness, and the internet falls in love with him all over again. But ask him about his love life, and the tone changes fast. Deflect. Change the subject. Keep it short. For decades, that is all reporters got. And when someone that famous refuses to fill in the blanks, the public fills them in for him. Guess girlfriends. Invented timelines. A running theory that he had simply given up on serious relationships altogether. That grief had made him permanently unavailable. None of it was true. Because TP2 he real answer was not hiding somewhere out of reach. It was sitting in his contacts under a label nobody thought to question. Friend. Collaborator. Business partner. 3 words doing a lot of work to keep a secret hiding in plain sight. A dinner party that changed everything. 2009. A dinner party, the kind nobody bothers writing down the date of. Reeves meets a painter named Alexandra Grant. No spark reported. No headline moment. Just 2 people who get along and stay in touch. 2 years pass. Then, out of that ordinary friendship, comes something nobody expected. A book, of all things, from 2 people who had never made anything public together before. Ode to Happiness. Released in 2011, Reeves writing the words, Grant handling the art. Except here is the twist nobody clocked at the time. It was never supposed to be public. Grant made it as a private gift just for him. When she handed it over in front of friends, the room laughed so hard, people begged them to publish it for real. Reeves has since called the book a meditation on making the best of a bad situation, which, looking back, says a lot about both of them. 2 guarded people, quietly building something together, years before anyone thought to ask if it was more than art. 2011 to 2019, 8 years. And in that time, Reeves and Grant were photographed together more than once. Nobody noticed the pattern. 2016, the UNAIDS Gala in Switzerland, the two of them standing close, and it barely registers as news. That same year, a second book, Shadows, built entirely around Grant's photographs of Reeves, not his face, his shape, his outline, light and dark. A year later, 2017, they open a publishing house together. Small, independent, built on nothing the public could see as romantic. Every appearance reads as professional. Two artists supporting each other's work, off in a corner of the culture that entertainment reporters rarely bother checking. That gap between what was actually happening and what anyone assumed is exactly how two private people built something real for almost a decade without a single tabloid catching on. Almost a decade of hiding in the one place nobody thought to look. The arts section. The night The Secret ended 2019 is when it finally cracks. May, a benefit for the Museum of Contemporary Art. Their first real red carpet as a couple. June, a fashion show in Malibu, hands clasped, cameras catching at this time. Then November, the LACMA Art and Film Gala. And suddenly the internet is paying attention. The story explodes overnight, hitting entertainment sites, morning shows, every timeline at once. A source close to Reeves later says he genuinely wanted to start sharing this part of his life, that he was happy, grateful, ready. Grant, on the other hand, is stunned by the scale of it. She later says it felt like every person she had ever met called her within the first week. But instead of chasing the spotlight, she says she kept asking herself one question. What good could actually come from all this attention? That question, not the fame itself, is what ends up shaping how the two of them handle everything that comes after. Notice that word. Not what, but what good. That single word choice tells you almost everything about who she is. A friend's slip here is a detail most coverage of this couple glosses right over. When the LACMA photos broke in November of 2019, reporters scrambled to figure out how long this had actually been going on. Grant's friend, actress Jennifer Tilly, gave them an answer nobody was expecting. Several years, she said. Not months. Years. Which means the version of events where Reeves and Grant suddenly became a couple sometime in 2019 does not really hold up. By the time the world found out, they were already deep into something established, something that had survived multiple public appearances disguised as work trips and gallery events. That one offhand comment from a friend did more to reveal the real timeline than anything either Reeves or Grant has ever said directly. It also means every early photo of them at galas and book signings, the ones everyone assumed were just two colleagues, needs a second look. They may not have been hiding a new relationship at all. They may have been hiding an old one that had already had years to become exactly what it is now. What grief left behind here is why this mattered so much to people. Long before Grant, Reeves lost his close friend River Phoenix in the 1990s, a loss he has barely discussed publicly since. Not long after, his girlfriend at the time, Jennifer Syme, lost their daughter before she was even born. The relationship did not survive what came next. And in 2001, Syme died in a car accident. For years, every profile on Reeves circled back to this. The tragic actor. The man who accepted being alone rather than risk that kind of loss again. What almost nobody knew is that his friendship with Grant had already been quietly forming underneath all of that, through 2 books and a small publishing project, long before the public had any reason to connect the dots, or even think to look. So when they went public in 2019, it did not read like a normal celebrity relationship announcement. It read like an ending to a story people had been telling about him for decades. Except it was not an ending at all. It was something that had been happening the entire time, hidden in plain sight, while everyone kept writing him off as a man alone. Do not make the mistake of thinking Alexandra Grant is simply the woman who fixed Keanu Reeves. She had a full career before any of this. Born in Ohio, 1973, to a geology professor and a diplomat-turned-political science professor. Raised between Mexico City, Paris, and boarding schools in the United States. Fluent in English, Spanish, and French before she ever picked up a paintbrush professionally. History and studio art at Swarthmore. A graduate degree in painting from the California College of the Arts. Her first solo museum show, 2007, at the Museum of Contemporary Art in Los Angeles, years before Reeves entered the picture at all. A charitable art project the year after that, using her own work to fund other artists. Teaching gigs at multiple schools. A documentary she directed herself. Awards recognizing her own work, handed out for reasons that have nothing to do with who she is dating. When Grant talks about the relationship publicly, she makes one thing clear every time. She built her name first. That is not a footnote. That is the reason she can stand on a red carpet next to one of the most famous men alive and not disappear into his shadow. Ask any gallery in Los Angeles who she is, and Keanu Reeves is not the first answer you get. A 3-year gap and a kiss after that first wave of attention in 2019, they basically vanish from red carpets. 3 years. No joint appearances. Just the occasional paparazzi shot and nothing official. You would think after a reveal that big, they would lean into it. They did the opposite. Then, 2022, they resurface at the Mocha Gala, and fans immediately clock how at ease they look. The following year, they go further. An actual kiss, on the carpet, in front of photographers, something neither of them had ever done publicly before. Around that same event, Reeves is asked about his last real moment of happiness. He describes something almost boring on purpose. Lying in bed with Grant, laughing about nothing in particular. No red carpet. No cameras. Just two people, comfortable. Later that year, Grant tells an audience honoring her own work that falling in love as an adult, after she had already built her career, gave her a kind of confidence she does not think she would have had otherwise. These small, spaced-out moments are the only real windows the public ever gets into what this relationship actually looks like day to day. Blink, and you miss them. That seems to be exactly the point. Fake news. Real happiness back to that ring. Back to the wedding that never happened. For almost 3 months after that ballerina premiere, the rumor just keeps growing, fed by nothing more than one photo and a lot of guessing. Then, September 24th, 2025, Grant finally says something. A photo, posted to Instagram, of her and Reeves kissing at Rodin Crater, an art site in Arizona, taken right after Reeves and a friend finished interviewing artist James Torrell. In the caption, she is direct. Real photo, she says, not an engagement, not some artificial wedding announcement generated by a computer. Just a kiss. Caught at an ordinary moment, both of them making slightly ridiculous faces. She thanks people for the congratulations on a wedding that, in her words, simply did not happen. Then she adds a small warning, almost joking, about how easily false stories spread online these days. Be careful out there, she says. She ends on something warmer. A small piece of real happiness, she calls it. Within hours, the same outlets that spread the fake wedding are now quoting her correction word for word. One Instagram caption, undoing 3 months of headlines built by outlets with far bigger platforms than hers. That is how little control the truth actually had in this story, until she decided to take it back herself, in her own words, on her own terms, without a lawyer or a press release anywhere near it. A birthday message says it all. A few weeks before that correction, Grant had already given fans something rarer, a glimpse she was not forced into. Early September, a birthday post for Reeves, complete with a heart-shaped cake with his name iced across it. In the caption, she speaks directly to him, joking that he had already seen an earlier draft of the post, then thanking him for his love and their partnership in a handful of plain words. Easy to scroll past, but it is one of the only times the relationship shows up warm, playful, unguarded, without a rumor forcing the moment. Compare that to everything else on this list, and it stands out. Then October, the premiere of Good Fortune. A reporter finally asks Reeves about the marriage rumor directly. He laughs it off, says it is not even the first time people assume they got married. Says they have been together a long time now, almost casually, like it is not a big deal at all. Then he gives Grant real credit for thanking people kindly while still correcting the record without drama. He even calls the whole rumor a nice thing, in its own strange way, since it came from people who genuinely wanted good things for both of them. Not annoyed, not defensive, just amused that people cared enough to guess. Here is the part that explains everything else in this story. You see, fans have almost nothing to work with here, so they read everything. A ring on the wrong finger becomes a secret engagement. A matching outfit becomes a coordinated announcement. The color of a dress. The placement of a hand at a gala. All of it gets picked apart like evidence, as if enough analysis could force two intensely private people to confirm something they clearly have zero interest in confirming. Even Grant's captions, a handful of plain words next to a photo, get treated like coded messages instead of what they probably are. Just a private person sharing a nice moment. Think about how strange that actually is. Two people who barely comment on their own relationship have somehow become one of the most discussed couples in Hollywood, purely because of how little they say. This is not new. This is the exact pattern that turned one ring photo into a fake wedding within weeks. The less two people give the public, the more the public invents to fill that space. Few celebrity couples prove that better than these two, and honestly, few seem less interested in changing it, no matter how many rings, kisses, or captions get put under a microscope next. Where they stand now, no title, no wedding, not even an engagement, despite years of people insisting otherwise. And Reeves and Grant do not seem bothered by any of it. Since going public in 2019, they keep showing up for each other, mocha galas, LACMA's art and film gala, one appearance at a time, treated less like a statement and more like an ordinary night out. January 2026, Grant marks the close of Reeves's Broadway run in Waiting for Godot, writing about how proud she was watching him take that risk after over 100 shows, sharing a video of the exact moment he spotted her in the audience at Curtain Call. Months later, April, they step out again, this time for the premiere of his new film Outcome. Both dressed in the same muted, understated colors they always wear when the cameras are out. Their publishing house is still running, years after they built it together. Grant keeps expanding into new work of her own, wine production alongside her gallery career, proof that whatever this relationship is built on, it has never once required her to shrink her own life around his. What started as two guarded people quietly making books in the background is now one of the longest-running, least explained relationships in the industry, one that keeps making headlines for exactly one reason. The two people at the center of it refuse to explain themselves. They correct the record only when they absolutely have to, then go straight back to living quietly until the next photo, the next ring, or the next rumor drags them back into the conversation. And every single time, that is exactly what happens, and every single time, millions of people watch it happen anyway. After years of proving they do not need a wedding, a ring, or a headline to make it real, do you think Keanu Reeves and Alexandra Grant will ever actually get married? Or are they exactly where they want to be? If you enjoyed this unveil, smash that like button, comment, and subscribe for more untold Hollywood tales, and hit the bell so you never miss a drop. Want more? Check out another one of our videos. Thanks for watching.